calming, I guess.
It's an escape from reality.
Therapeutic?
This life is kind of boring, at least with books and other stuff. It helps you just think there's something more. Like there's something more than just this mundane life.
Because it's a way for me to escape the real world and all the stress and stuff that goes along with the real world.
Distracts you from that dark place that you make yourself go to.
You have your way, I have my way. As for the right way, the correct way, and the only way, it does not exist.
So when you're feeling really stressed or down, what do you tend to do to cope with that?
Depending on how bad it gets, actually, is where it goes from music to other things to like art and whatever I'm dealing with at the time, based around it. But usually, like, self-harm is a big thing, and it's not something to be glorified, but it's something that people need to know, need to be more aware of, because it is in our community and it is in schools. Even if people don't say it, a lot of people don't know, like, behind closed doors, everything is different.
For many people, the world of video games is a perfect break from reality filled with deadlines, stress, and responsibilities. People play them because they are fun, interesting, and a way to relax. Computer and video games are often used to help people focus on something other than life's daunting problems. For a few fleeting moments, the players lose themselves in the games as they feel the bliss and release of being in control. They are in a virtual world that makes sense to them, a place where they can be whoever or whatever they choose, without worrying about how they look or act, and without having to deal with real-life problems. For some, this escape is just a passing fascination, but for others, video games are much more.
Why do you game?
I game because it's a way for me to escape the real world and all the stress and stuff that goes along with the real world.
Okay. How do you usually feel as different between when you start, when you're playing, and when you finish?
Usually when I start, I'm probably a bit stressed out. So I mean, it relaxes me a lot. And when I stop, which is really usually until I go to bed, I'm much more calm, albeit sometimes rather hyper, but I'm less stressed and stuff about it.
How did you get into gaming as a way to kind of de-stress?
Well, for a number of years, actually, my cousin Atticus and I would go from game to game. He would start playing one game, and then he would invite me to join another game. We just did that for a number of years, and then finally we got on to World of Warcraft, and I basically stuck with that game after he quit it because I love the environment, I love how it works, and I love the roleplay aspect, which from what I've understood and been told, there are really no other games with the kind of roleplay environment that there are in World of Warcraft.
What do you specifically like about role-playing? Why do you prefer that type of game?
I prefer it because it allows me to be more true to who I am.
I spent the rest of the day in someone else's story.
What do you use to deal with stress or to cope with things that are happening in your life?
Usually I just like to draw, but reading works too.
Why do you think reading helps you?
Well, because it serves as an escape from reality, because this life is kind of boring, at least with books and other stuff. It helps you just think there's something more. There's something more than just this mundane life.
How do you feel usually when you're reading a book?
I usually don't feel anything. I usually get so encompassed by what I'm reading, I kind of just generally forget about anything else. I completely immerse myself into what I'm reading. I'm kind of the person in the background that's just watching the action, going through.
And in regards to stress, does it help you after you finish it, just to think about something else for a while?
Yeah, usually think about what I just read, go search for a new something to read. Just lets me help forget everything.
How did you figure out that reading helped you to de-stress?
I know it was like a really long time ago. Like, I had problems in middle school. Like, I was bullied a lot, so I always spent time in the library because kind of felt like a good escape place. And I think that's kind of when I started picking up books and reading.
Our greatest glory consists not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall.
So why do you listen to music?
In relating to normal people, I listen to music because it's pleasant. In relating to stress-related stuff, it's calming, I guess.
Alright, how do you usually feel before you start listening to music, and then is there any change during when you're listening?
Before, I just feel really down and kind of shitty, but I just feel really down and like you get to a place in your mind where it's just really dark, not like in like light or anything, like in, I don't know, more of a mental state of really just down and just feeling really terrible. So listening to music kind of distracts you from that dark place that you make yourself go to.
Where do you usually go to listen to music? Is there any specific place you prefer over somewhere else?
I kind of prefer being in my room by myself with the door closed. Mostly because if I do get like emotional or something, I don't have to deal with other people like, oh, what's wrong? So it's like really personal and you get to vent on your own and just calm down from whatever's bothering you.
How did you like start using music to calm yourself?
Once I realized that it could be therapeutic, I think someone had mentioned the fact that people use music as therapy sometimes, so I thought about it and trying it. It actually does work for me occasionally, so therapeutic reasons, I guess.
Stay inside all the time. For one thing, it's proven actually that World of Warcraft, the game I play, is rather addicting to the point where some people spend literally basically 100% of their time playing it and you just don't stop playing it.
Books, which can kind of make you feel a lot better, make you fall in love, angry, furious, murderous. Those last three.
Okay, and is there any other comments that you think you would like to tell people about using reading or other ways to deal with stress?
Just that it, along with many other things, it just works really well as an escape from reality.
So do you notice any negative aspects of listening to music to de-stress?
I don't know about anyone else, but if I'm listening to a song that's kind of triggering or has dark undertones or something, I can get even into a downer place. So I guess it could kind of like make whatever I'm upset about even worse, depending on the song I'm listening to or depending on the tones or whatever. But other than that, I don't think so.
It's like this. Sometimes, when you have a very long straight ahead of you, you think how terribly long it is and feel sure you'll never get it swept. And then you start to hurry. You work faster and faster, and every time you look up there seems to be just as much to sweep as before. And you try even harder, and you panic, and in the end you're out of breath and have to stop. And still the street stretches away in front of you. That's not the way to do it. You must never think of the whole street at once, understand? You must only concentrate on the next step, the next breath, the next stroke of the broom, and the next, and the next. Nothing else. That way you enjoy your work, which is important, because then you make a good job of it, and that's how it ought to be. And all at once, before you know it, you find you've swept the whole street clean, bit by bit. What's more, you aren't out of breath. That's more important, too.